Hey guys, welcome back to another The Unofficial A&R video. Today I kinda wanted to talk about something which has been on my mind recently, which involves Chris Brown's newest album, Breezy, and some controversy surrounding not only the album, but also queries about Chris Brown's artistry. Breezy is Chris Brown's 10th studio album. It has a clear R&B focus and demonstrates Chris's versatility as an artist as he embraces the art of fusion on this project. This album has pop influences, Afrobeats, drill, hip-hop, early 2000s R&B, old school R&B, and even funk. Now, I've listened to this project a few times, and after mulling it over a little bit, I've come to the conclusion that this is one of Chris Brown's best projects, as cohesively most of the songs fit very well, and I believe that there is something for everyone on this project. I actually believe that this album has barely any skips, maybe one or two, but altogether Chris reigns very strong on this album when it comes down to the quality of music on this project. Whilst I believe that Chris Brown's previous album Indigo was also very strong, one could say that quantity over quality reigned supreme on that album, as the original album had 32 songs and the deluxe had 42. Heartbreak on a Full Moon had a similar amount of songs. I do, however, believe that Chris Brown released Indigo and Heartbreak on a Full Moon for his core fans and wasn't really too focused on casual listeners. A lot of the songs from those albums had been previewed by Chris Brown before the albums even dropped, and his fans were always asking him to drop the full versions of them, so that's what makes me believe that Chris Brown was more fan focused for those albums. However, I really want to talk about a video that I saw recently which inspired me to talk about this current project of Chris Brown's. Recently I saw a video of DJ Akademiks on his Twitch livestream in which he was responding to Chris Brown showing his frustration at the fact that his album debuted at number 4 and how its sales didn't do as well as he had hoped. Akademiks basically went in on Chris Brown after this and said a few things regarding the album and Chris Brown as an artist, which I just wanted to give my 2 cents on. The first thing Akademiks said was that he thinks Chris wants to be a gangster when the real music that we like from him is nostalgic. This is understandable, seeming as a lot of people have memories tied to Chris Brown's old music, many of which people would consider to be classics. Chris Brown was 16 at the time, releasing some absolutely timeless bangers. He had the look, he could dance, he had the high-pitched voice. It was quite evident that Chris Brown was going to be a superstar. My issue with this comment, however, is that I'm convinced that when people say stuff like this, they're not actually digesting any of Chris's new releases properly. If people actually listen to this new Chris Brown album specifically, they would realize that this album is like if new school Chris Brown was to meet old school Chris Brown. I truly believe that if you like self-titled, exclusive, even Fame or Indigo, then you will like Breezy. Breezy is basically a grown-up version of Chris's earlier projects. This album stands just as tall as Fame when it comes to the quality of music and has a very nostalgic feel to it. So just because people may be stuck on early Chris Brown albums doesn't mean that they should completely overlook this project, in my opinion. To continue on that point, Akademiks also said that he believes Chris Brown makes music for the moment when he should be making classics. If there's one thing Chris Brown does very well, is manage to put out at least one very popular song with every album drop. Chris Brown has a classic from basically every album he's ever released. If you go to a club that plays R&B or hip-hop, it's almost impossible to not hear Chris Brown playing, whether it's old or new music, or whether the DJ is getting into the meat and potatoes of their set in order to kickstart the night, or the leftovers at the end of the night to signal that the club is closing. I just want to give a quick run through of classics Chris Brown has released per album. Self-titled had songs like Run It, Yo, Give Me That. Exclusive, he has songs like With You, Take You Down, Forever. Graffiti was his most difficult era because of what happened in 2009, but Crawl is really a classic R&B song from Chris Brown and honestly deserved a lot more love. Fame is literally classic central. Most of his singles from this era are still in heavy rotation now. Fortune birthed a lot of dance classics. Don't Wake Me Up, Turn Up the Music. X had New Flame and Loyal. Royalty had Back to Sleep, Liquor, and Zero. Heartbreak on a Full Moon had Questions and Privacy. Indigo had No Guidance and Heat. And these are just from Chris's albums alone. This doesn't include collaboration albums or Chris's appearances on other people's songs that he's written, or his mixtapes. So to say that Chris Brown makes music for the moment is kinda inaccurate. Yes, it's true that the word classic is subjective, but for me, what defines a classic is a song or a project that consistently gets a lit reaction from your audience, no matter how many years have gone by since the album or the single's release, and has the numbers to back it up, most of which do. It's also true that we haven't heard a classic from Breezy yet, But the album literally just released, and it already looks like Call Me Every Day featuring Wizkid is up next on Chris's list of classics, especially since Afrobeats is rising in popularity right now. Does Chris Brown have a lot of throwaway songs? Absolutely. But to say that he's just making music for the moment, I'm not sure. I don't think that that's completely true given his track record. I also noticed that Akademiks seem to take a slight issue with Chris's identity. He specifically took issue with the fact that ESTG is featured on the album, as well as a song called Catch a Body featuring Fivio Foreign. Akademiks proceeded to say that Chris is a singer, he's a dancer, he shouldn't be rapping about, retiring people, because that's not what people want to hear from him. Akademiks seem to believe that Chris should be putting his own spin on old school R&B and that he shouldn't be trying to fit in with the rappers. I kinda want to break this criticism down into two parts. First of all, it's quite clear that Akademiks hasn't listened to Breezy. If you listen to CAB, you'll find that Chris Brown is not rapping about retiring people at all. He's rapping about sex. He's rapping about adding to his sexual body count. I know that CAB is a drill song, but he's not rapping about the stuff that drill rappers usually rap about. CAB is a drill song with R&B and pop influence. It couldn't be any further away from hardcore drill if it wanted to be. Secondly, the issue that I have with a statement like this is that it keeps artists in a box. I have no issue with artists wanting to experiment with versatility. In fact, I think it's imperative that as an artist you try to be as versatile as you possibly can, especially in this day and age. We are no longer in the 80s or the 90s where one style of music can just carry on for 10 years straight and nobody has an issue with it. Everybody just calls whatever song comes out of this era a classic. We are in the years of the very famous short attention span. Probably due to how advanced technology has become, it's very easy for music to get played out very quickly, especially when you have access to it 24/7 with the help of streaming apps. A lot of people like to say that they want artists to go back to making music like they used to, but when artists do this, these are usually the songs or albums that get the most snubs. Just ask Usher when he released Sex Beat. Fans begged him to make old school Usher music, and that shit went triple cling film. Let artists make the music that they want to make. Just because Chris Brown isn't making early 2000s music that everybody grew up to on a consistent basis doesn't mean that his current music isn't going to go far. I remember Chris Brown's own fans tweeting that Loyal was trash because it wasn't like anything that they had heard from him before. And guess what? Yeah, it's 4 times platinum. 4 million sold as of 2019, and it's probably one of Chris Brown's best-selling songs. Can you imagine if Chris Brown didn't release Look At Me Now because he quote-unquote is not a rapper? Look At Me Now is almost diamond in certification, by the way. Chris Brown barely does any singing on that song. There's no early 2000s nostalgia attached to it. It's literally Chris Brown experimenting. I'd also like to say that if anything, Chris Brown collaborating with new rappers like ESTG and Lil Baby actually keeps his name in the loop, and he keeps the younger generation aware of who he is, thus making it quite difficult for Chris Brown to ever fade into irrelevance. Chris Brown is literally on tour with Lil Baby right now, so if Lil Baby fans brought tickets to the tour literally just to see Lil Baby, then they also have to sit through Chris Brown's set and get familiar with his music. Regarding the point on versatility and doing things outside the box, I would also like to say that if there is one thing that you can't really say about Chris Brown, is that he makes the same song over and over again, which I have also noticed is a very popular comment to say amongst people who do not like him whatsoever on Twitter. However, if we're just being fair, Chris Brown has a classic in a lot of different genres. Yeah, 3 times in dance music, Forever and Loyal in pop, just to name a few, Beautiful People in house music, Look At Me Now in hip hop, the numerous amount of classics that he has in R&B, Blow My Mind with Davido and Afrobeats, Fine China in funk music, She Ain't You in old school R&B. This is literally based off of SWV's Right Here, by the way. So if anything, Chris has proved that he can have hits when experimenting, as well as hits with an old school feel to them. And that's just me cherry picking certain songs from different genres too. To further add to this point, I believe that the reason why this album is one of Chris Brown's best is because he manages to balance both versatility and quality R&B. I want to just give a short run through of the songs that I believe have a lot of commercial appeal and why. So without further ado, let's just get straight to it. Firstly, let's get into a song which I believe Chris Brown should have released as his leading single or second single, which is Psychic featuring Jack Harlow. It's probably the most commercially viable song from this project. If you agreed with what Akademiks said and believe that Chris should be putting his own spin on old school R&B, similar to what he did with She Ain't You, then this song is the song that you should be listening to. That Cassie Me and You sample remixed in is golden. For me, it adds to the list of great samples used by or with Chris Brown as a feature because he manages to make an old school song sound brand new. It's a very youthful song. Jack Harlow matches this song perfectly. This one verse from Jack Harlow is better than every song he's released from Come Home The Kids Miss You. No guys, I'm being very serious. That album was questionable. Check out my review on it, by the way. If this song is released as a single, I'm sure it will be a hit. It'll definitely bang in the clubs especially. Call Me Every Day featuring Wizkid. If he releases a video for this song, possibly travels to Africa to make it, or just puts out a really beautiful video for it, then the success of this song will skyrocket. It's already the song from this album which seems to have the most praise, and it's growing in popularity on TikTok thanks to a new dance trend by Rahul Memi 3. It's kinda impossible to dislike this track just because of how smooth and inoffensive it is. You can literally play this song at any time, any place, with anyone. This song is truly a universal summer hit. My only critique is that Chris Brown should have released a video for this already because it would have been very popular over summer, and we're halfway through summer with still no video. Possessive featuring Lil Wayne and BLEU. At first, I was not too sure how this would sound. However, after listening to it, I've concluded that this song has massive R&B single potential. This song is 100% for lover boys and girls. And all three artists mesh super well with each other here. Lil Wayne absolutely demolishes his verse, and I appreciate Chris Brown bringing back the concept of male R&B duets, because him and BLEU are kind of like buffalo wings and blue cheese. They pair very well, and the vocals are very sweet here. This song honestly gets better with every listen. Pitch Black is a hit. If you don't believe me, go listen to it. I guarantee you by the end of the day, it'll be stuck in your head. If you're a fan of songs like Privacy and Back to Sleep, then this song is really not far off in terms of quality R&B. I also feel like Chris Brown showcases some very strong vocal performances on this album, which is something that Chris Brown doesn't usually get praise for. Once again, if you're like Akademiks and would prefer to hear Chris Brown put his spin on old school R&B, then Harder is a song that you should be listening to. It literally sounds like Chris Brown doing his own spin on Untitled How Does It Feel by D'Angelo. It reminds me of a male version of Love on the Brain by Rihanna. Don't crucify me for saying that, I'm just saying it's very old school inspired. Chris has a very strong vocal on it, and it's a fresh remix of a classic R&B song. Dream is a great song for people who prefer a song with strong vocals and a stripped back beat, kinda like All Back from Chris's Fame era. There's very little to say about this song besides the fact that it's beautiful. Along with Sleep at Night, which was previewed in Chris Brown's Warm Embrace video, and Passing Time, which also sounds like Chris Brown reconstructing 80s soul music. The beginning beat of Passing Time reminds me of something that Luther Vandross would probably sing over. My only critique of Passing Time is that the rap wasn't needed. It really wasn't needed at all. Despite this, all of these songs remain very true to R&B. However, I truly believe that they're unfortunately very underrated, given that people pay true R&B dust despite begging artists to bring it back. And lastly, an honorable mention goes to Forbidden. It's off the wall reincarnated, it's up-tempo, funk-driven, the Michael Jackson influence is very strong here. Chris Brown captures the essence of him almost perfectly on this song, very similarly to how he did with Fine China. However, given its track listing position on the album, it does sound slightly out of place. I think he should have put it within the first 12 songs because the last 12 songs are definitely slower paced R&B tracks. But it's still a great track regardless. Altogether, despite the controversy surrounding the initial success of the album and people believing that Chris Brown should remain in his own lane, I truly believe that Breezy is one of Chris Brown's best albums. Chris Brown manages to constantly reinvent R&B by fusing it with other genres, and by doing this, he shows why he will always remain in the R&B discussion as a top contender. Despite Chris Brown's artistry and how sonically good this album is, unfortunately, it's a bit of a reluctant black sheep amongst the rest of his albums because despite the pros, it wasn't reflected in its chart position. There could be a few reasons for this, such as perhaps RCA wasn't pushing the album enough on major playlists on Spotify, and so who knows, there's probably loads of people who have no clue that Chris Brown just released a new project. I also think that the fact that the album has no extremely popular lead singles before its release probably resulted in the word of Chris Brown releasing an album not having reached enough people for it to make a bigger impact on the charts. If I had one major criticism, it would be that Chris Brown should have held off releasing his album for a little while until one of his main singles attained a certain level of success, which would have been very easy for Chris Brown to retain if he released Call Me Every Day or Psychic as singles before the release of the album. I also think that Chris Brown did his promo way too late. I believe he was promoting the album for maybe a week or two before he released it, and in my opinion, this is just not enough. Especially if you're doing long interviews in an age where people prefer to watch short snippets of interviews instead of an hour-long conversation. If he was going to promote this project, it should have been promoted for at least a month before it dropped, because then it gets people's eyebrows raising and subsequently builds anticipation. Nonetheless, if you're a person who genuinely just loves music, and R&B in particular, then this album is not an album to be slept on. I truly believe it's already underrated and probably will be for some time. However, I do think that as time goes on, this album will age very well and will be regarded as one of Chris Brown's best albums to date. I also think that if Chris Brown chooses his singles very carefully from here on out, then it will be relatively easy for Chris's list of classics to continue growing. Anyway guys, that's all from me today. Thank you so much for listening to this video. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are on this project down below. Do you agree with Akademiks? Do you believe that Chris Brown has lost his mojo? Let me know what you guys think, and I will see you guys in the next video.